Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a seriously fascinating paradox. We're going to look at how modern biological miracles, the cutting-edge science you read about every single day, actually have a dark, ancient lineage. We are exploring what we call the Immortality Loop.
So, here's the big question. Are modern biohackers on the verge of biological immortality? Or are they literally just repeating a deadly 2,000-year-old mistake? It's a provocative thought, right? But we're living in this high-stakes world right now where everyday people are actually injecting experimental genetics into their bodies, in their garages. We really have to ask ourselves if we're breaking new ground here or if we're just walking in circles.
To really ground ourselves, just take a look at the wild reality of today's longevity influencers. Right now, you can hop online and buy DIY CRISPR gene editing kits. There are clandestine stem cell clinics out there promising to completely erase old age, and people are taking totally unregulated injections to alter their eye color or pump up their muscle mass. But here is the absolutely crucial framing for today. This extreme biohacking, it's not a new phenomenon. It's actually a symptom of a very old, deeply ingrained human impatience.
Okay, let's dive into this framework. Because history shows us there's a strict three-step behavioral cycle that connects every medical obsession from antiquity all the way to today's internet influencers. Step 1 is the scientific milestone, where a legitimate, invisible component of the body or nature is discovered. Then, Step 2, the public utopia. This is where the public and medical opportunists assume that if a substance regulates life, manipulating it in massive quantities is going to grant superpowers or immortality. And finally, we hit Step 3, the dangerous reality, where the catastrophic side effects of our impatience finally force medical regulation.
Section 1. Deadly Alchemy, the First Emperor's Magic Formula.
We've got to start with Qin Shi Huang, the legendary first emperor of a unified China. This is the man who ordered the construction of the Great Wall and the terracotta warriors. As brilliant as he was at empire building, he was absolutely terrified of dying. As he got older, he became obsessed with avoiding death, which made him easy prey for his court alchemists. Based on the medical theory of balancing yin and yang, these alchemists sought out pure, inorganic substances in nature. They logically, but fatally, believed that consuming indestructible noble metals would make the human body equally incorruptible and immortal.
And this brilliantly illustrates the trap. To the ancients, the scientific milestone, mercury, was absolutely fascinating. It's a dense, silver metal that's miraculously liquid at room temperature. They perceived it as celestial magic. But the dangerous reality? The emperor's immortality pills, which were made of mercury, jade dust, and sulfur, completely destroyed his nervous system. We're talking severe dementia, kidney damage, and hyperparanoia. The very substance meant to save him killed him at just 49 years old.
But you know what's crazy? The utopia phase of his obsession didn't even end with his death. Modern archaeologists scanning his mausoleum have actually detected incredibly high levels of mercury in the soil. Ancient texts verify that his obsession was so absolute, he ordered the construction of artificial rivers and seas of liquid mercury designed to flow mechanically inside his tomb to protect his body for eternity.
Section 2. Alkaloids, Monsters, and Monkeys. The 19th and 20th century escalation.
All right, let's fast forward a bit. In the 1880s, we see the rise of alkaloids and synthetic chemistry. By the 1920s, the world gets totally obsessed with endocrinology and hormones. And by the 1950s, we enter the vitamin revolution. Each era found its own so-called miracle cure. Let's zoom in on the 1880s for a second. Medicine was experiencing a massive paradigm shift. We were moving away from pure anatomy. Think of the 1818 novel Frankenstein, which was based on stitching dead tissue and jolting it with electricity, and jumping headfirst into the era of organic chemistry and toxicology. Scientists were suddenly isolating potent active principles from plants, discovering powerful alkaloids like morphine, cocaine, and heroin. And society, well, they suddenly believed they could redesign human mood, energy, and behavior overnight using these miraculous recreational and medicinal tonics.
Now, what's really interesting is how fiction perfectly mirrored this medical reality. The famous fictional potion from Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde was a metaphor for the psychiatric theories of the time regarding repressed savagery and dualism, relying on a chemical impure salt. But the real story behind it is honestly even wilder. The author, Robert Louis Stevenson, wrote the book in a 6-day creative frenzy while suffering from chronic tuberculosis. His doctors prescribed him ergotamine, which is an early relative of LSD, along with other psychoactive chemicals. So Jekyll's fictional transformation, the nausea, the bone-burning pain, the intense euphoria, that was actually a direct reflection of Stevenson's own drug-induced medical reality and violent withdrawals.
As we roll into the 1920s, that chemistry obsession shifts to the hormone craze. Now, the scientific milestone here was brilliant, discovering that the endocrine system actually controls human development and aging, but the utopia phase, completely absurd. Society was demanding biological rejuvenation and a return of youth. The dangerous reality was that famous surgeons like Serge Warrenoff became millionaires by literally implanting the testicular tissue of monkeys into wealthy men. Doctors were blindly injecting crude animal extracts, treating hormones like these mystical engines of life. And predictably, it led to severe metabolic disasters and cancer.
And then came the 1950s vitamin obsession. The milestone was real. Isolating essential vitamins miraculously cured deadly deficiencies like scurvy and rickets. But the highly commercialized utopia phase birthed this myth that more is better for unlimited energy. You had brilliant scientists like Nobel laureate Linus Pauling promoting massive megadoses of vitamin C to cure everything from the common cold to cancer. The reality was a wave of toxicity and hypervitaminosis. It was this commercialization that firmly cemented the modern public's absolute obsession with taking a daily magic pill.
Section 3, 21st Century Magic Formulas, Closing the Historical Loop.
So, let's objectively separate the life-saving science from the reckless utopian applications today, starting with stem cells. The real scientific promise here is astonishing. We're talking about regenerating organs and treating diseases like leukemia based on brilliant foundational biology. But the dangerous excess is this booming industry of medical tourism, promising to cure autism or erase old age by injecting completely unverified cells. And the reality of that excess? Patients are developing mixed tissue tumors called teratomas, experiencing unwanted bone and cartilage growth in the wrong places, and there are even cases of permanent blindness.
So the crucial point is that this exact same pattern is repeating with our absolute most advanced tech, CRISPR and gene therapy. The real promise is literally rewriting the code of life to cure hereditary diseases and muscular dystrophy. It's amazing. But the dangerous excess is extreme biohacking, people buying kits to alter their DNA for superficial traits like eye color. Editing your DNA in a garage carries the massive risk of off-target mutations, triggering aggressive cancers, or causing lethal immune system failure. When you think about it, it carries the exact same risks of human impatience as drinking the first emperor's mercury. Remember that three-step pattern we talked about at the beginning? The milestone, the utopia, the reality. Well, we are currently living deeply inside step 2. We are in the information utopia phase, a phase that is dangerously amplified by the internet, where private island influencers promote unapproved experimental therapies directly to your social media feed.
And this brings us to the core thesis of this whole explainer. Modern medicine offers us godlike tools, but our impatience to cheat death remains deeply, fatally human. Understanding this historical loop is absolutely essential for navigating our own health decisions today. The science is incredibly real, but the desire for a miraculous overnight shortcut, that is a trap as old as civilization itself.
I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. As we inject the future into our veins, are we building a biological utopia, or are we just digging our own digital rivers of mercury? The next time you see a sensational medical headline promising eternal youth, remember the first emperor. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Stay curious and always look closely at the reality behind the magic formula.